Jake Morrison sat on the edge of his bed and stared at the metal leg lying on the floor. 3 years had passed since the doctors attached it to what remained of his real leg. 3 years since the explosion at Europa Station took away his career as a Marine. 3 years of learning to walk again, learning to live again, learning to pretend he was okay. The apartment on Luna Colony was small and cheap. 1 room with a bed, a chair, and a tiny kitchen. The gray walls matched his mood most days. Outside the single window, Earth hung in the black sky like a blue marble. Beautiful and far away, just like his old life. Jake reached down and picked up the prosthetic. The metal was cold against his fingers. He had gotten good at putting it on, but he still hated the daily ritual. Click, twist, lock. The mechanical sounds reminded him every morning that he was no longer whole. His job at the waste disposal center paid enough to keep him alive. Not enough to feel alive, but alive was better than dead. Most days, the work was simple. Drive the collection truck around the colony. Pick up garbage. Sort recycling. Try not to think about how he used to lead soldiers into battle across 3 star systems. The bottle of synthetic whiskey on his table was half empty. Or half full, depending on how bad the nightmares had been the night before. Last night had been particularly rough. Dreams of explosions and screaming men. Dreams of running on 2 good legs toward danger instead of limping away from everything. Jake strapped on the prosthetic and stood up. The balance still felt wrong after all this time. His body knew something was missing. The phantom pain in his lost leg shot up through his hip. The doctors said it would fade. The doctors said many things that turned out to be wrong. He pulled on his work coveralls and checked the time. Another day of collecting other people's unwanted things. The irony was not lost on him. He felt like unwanted garbage most days. The truck was waiting in the depot when he arrived. An old model with dents and scratches that told stories of years of hard use. Like Jake himself. He climbed into the driver's seat and started his route. Luna Colony sprawled across 3 domed sections connected by tunnels. The residential dome housed about 10,000 people. The commercial dome contained shops, restaurants, and offices. The industrial dome was where Jake worked and lived. The forgotten section where broken things went to be useful one last time. His first stop was the residential area. Rich families from Earth who could afford to live off-world. Their garbage was clean and sorted. Their children played in safe parks while their parents worked important jobs. Jake tried not to be bitter about their easy lives, but some days the anger burned in his chest like acid. The commercial dome came next. Restaurants threw away enough food to feed half the industrial dome, but regulations prevented redistribution. Jake had learned not to question stupid rules. He just did his job and collected his pay. The last stop was always the industrial dump. This was where the real garbage went. Broken machinery, failed experiments, things too dangerous or worthless to recycle. Jake pulled up to the main disposal area and began loading his truck. That was when he saw it. At first, Jake thought it was a large dog. Someone had dumped it near a pile of metal scraps like it was just another piece of broken equipment. But as he got closer, he realized this was no Earth animal. The creature was wolf-like but larger. Much larger. Its fur shifted between silver and deep blue in the artificial light. The animal was unconscious but breathing. Its chest rose and fell in a slow, steady rhythm. Someone had clearly cared for it once. Despite being abandoned, its fur was clean and well-groomed. Around its neck was an ornate collar made of some metal Jake did not recognize. Strange symbols were carved into the surface. Jake looked around the dump. No one else was nearby. Security cameras covered most of the colony. But the dump had blind spots, places where unwanted things could disappear without questions. He should report this. Alien animals required special permits and medical checks. The paperwork alone would take weeks. But looking at the abandoned creature, Jake felt something he had not experienced in months. Purpose. The animal reminded him of military dogs he had worked with during his service. Loyal creatures who asked for nothing but food and kindness in return for absolute dedication. This one had been thrown away like garbage. Jake knew exactly how that felt. Making a decision that would change everything, Jake opened the back of his truck and carefully lifted the creature inside. It was heavier than it looked, but Jake had maintained his upper body strength despite his injury. The animal did not wake during the transfer. Jake covered it with a tarp and finished his route as quickly as possible. His mind raced with questions. What kind of animal was this? Where had it come from? Why had someone abandoned it? Most importantly, what was he going to do with it now? Back at his apartment, Jake managed to get the creature up 3 flights of stairs without being seen. His prosthetic leg made the climb difficult, but determination kept him moving. Inside his small home, he laid the animal on his bed and examined it more closely. The creature was definitely alien. Its paws were larger than any earth wolf, with claws that looked designed for climbing as well as running. Its ears were slightly longer and more pointed. Most striking were its eyes, which opened as Jake watched. Golden amber eyes that seemed far too intelligent for any animal Jake had ever seen. They focused on his face with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. This creature was studying him just as carefully as he was studying it. The animal made no aggressive moves. It simply watched Jake with those remarkable eyes. After several minutes, it slowly stood up on the bed and moved to the corner farthest from Jake. Not hiding, just giving both of them space. Jake filled a bowl with water and placed it on the floor. The creature approached cautiously, sniffed the water, and began to drink. Jake opened a can of processed meat from his emergency supplies and offered it on a plate. Again, the creature approached carefully, ate a small amount, and returned to its corner. "You are a polite one," Jake said aloud. "Someone taught you manners." The creature tilted its head at the sound of his voice. Those intelligent eyes seemed to be listening to more than just words. Jake decided to call him Blue because of the shifting color of his fur. It seemed like a good name for a creature who had landed in Jake's life like a gift from the blue earth hanging outside his window. That night, Jake slept better than he had in months. Blue curled up on the floor near the bed, a warm presence in the cold apartment. For the first time since losing his leg, Jake felt like he was not alone. Neither Jake nor Blue knew that across the galaxy, Prince Zephyr was returning to his father's palace and lying about what had happened to his ceremonial companion. The prince had grown tired of the creature's constant attempts to communicate and its strange behavior around certain people. When Emperor Valix asked about the traditional bonding ceremony, Prince Zephyr waved dismissively. "The creature was defective, father. I disposed of it on some outer rim colony. We can find a better one for the next ceremony." The emperor frowned but said nothing. Royal companions were sacred traditions, not disposable pets. But his son was young and perhaps did not yet understand the importance of such bonds. On Luna Colony, Jake Morrison and a creature called Blue began the first day of an unlikely friendship that would shake the foundations of an empire. 2 weeks passed like a dream Jake had forgotten he could have. For the first time since losing his leg, he looked forward to coming home from work. Blue was always waiting by the door, those golden eyes bright with what looked like happiness. The creature was remarkably smart. Jake had owned dogs before, but Blue learned things that seemed impossible. When Jake showed him where the water bowl belonged, Blue never moved it again. When Jake pointed to the corner where Blue slept, the creature understood that was his space. Most impressive was how Blue seemed to anticipate Jake's needs. On days when the phantom pain was bad, Blue would lie next to Jake's chair and provide warmth against his damaged leg. When nightmares woke Jake in the middle of the night, Blue was always there, a calm presence in the darkness. The creature never demanded attention, but offered comfort exactly when Jake needed it most. Jake started talking to Blue during their evenings together. At first, it felt silly talking to an animal, but Blue listened with an attention that made Jake feel heard for the first time in years. "I used to be good at things," Jake said one night, scratching behind Blue's ears. "I was a leader. Men followed me into battle because they trusted me to bring them home safe." Blue made a soft sound, almost like he was trying to respond. His head tilted in that way that suggested he was thinking about Jake's words. "Then that bomb went off on Europa Station. Took my leg and half my squad. The ones who lived got medals and promotions. I got a medical discharge and a mechanical leg that clicks when I walk." Blue moved closer and rested his large head on Jake's good leg. The warmth and weight were comforting in a way Jake could not explain. "You understand, don't you? Someone threw you away too. Left you in the garbage like you didn't matter." This time Blue's response was more than a sound. It was almost like he was trying to form words. Jake dismissed the thought as wishful thinking. Losing a leg was bad enough without losing his mind too. The routine they developed was simple but satisfying. Jake would go to work while Blue stayed in the apartment. When Jake returned, they would share dinner and spend the evening together. Blue never tried to escape or cause trouble. He seemed content to have found a home. On Jake's day off, he decided to take Blue for a walk through the less crowded areas of the industrial dome. Blue had been cooped up in the small apartment for 2 weeks. Even an alien creature needed exercise. The walk revealed more of Blue's unusual intelligence. He stayed close to Jake without needing a leash. When they came to intersections, Blue would stop and look both ways like he understood traffic safety. Other workers they passed stared at the strange pair, but no one asked questions. The industrial dome was full of people who minded their own business. Blue's behavior during the walk was almost human-like. He examined things with curiosity rather than animal instinct. When they passed a construction site, Blue watched the workers with the same interest he might show a puzzle he was trying to solve. "You are not like any animal I have ever seen," Jake said as they rested on a bench overlooking the main thoroughfare. "Sometimes I think you understand every word I say." Blue turned those golden eyes toward Jake and made that almost word sound again. This time it sounded distinctly like yes. Jake shook his head. His imagination was running wild. Alien or not, Blue was still an animal. Smart animals could be trained to respond to sounds, but they did not actually understand language. The next morning brought unexpected trouble. Jake was getting ready for work when someone knocked on his door. Through the peephole, he saw Administrator Lisa Grant, the woman who ran the industrial dome. She was not someone who made social visits. Jake quickly directed Blue to hide in the bedroom and opened the door. "Morning, Administrator Grant. What can I do for you?" Lisa Grant was in her 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had run the industrial dome for 8 years and knew everything that happened in her territory. "Good morning, Jake. I hope you don't mind me stopping by, but I have had some interesting reports lately." Jake tried to keep his expression neutral. "Reports about what?" "Strange sounds coming from this area at night. Howling that does not match any Earth animal. Also, your mood has improved dramatically over the past 2 weeks. Your supervisor mentioned you seem happier, more focused at work." Jake's heart started beating faster, but he tried to stay calm. "I have been feeling better lately. Physical therapy has been helping with my leg." Lisa stepped closer to the door. "May I come in?" "Just for a moment." Before Jake could refuse, a sound came from the bedroom. Not quite a howl, but close enough. Lisa's eyebrows went up. "That was not a ventilation system, Jake." Caught, Jake had no choice but to step aside and let her enter. Lisa walked directly to the bedroom door and opened it before Jake could stop her. Blue stood in the center of the room, magnificent and clearly alien. His fur shifted from silver to deep blue as the light hit it. Those intelligent golden eyes fixed on Lisa with calm assessment. "Dear God," Lisa whispered. "What is that?" "His name is Blue," Jake said, resigned to whatever consequences were coming. "I found him abandoned in the dump 2 weeks ago. Someone had thrown him away like garbage." Lisa stared at Blue, who stared back without fear or aggression. "Jake, this is clearly an alien species. Do you have any idea what kind of permits and documentation are required for alien fauna?" "I know it was wrong," Jake said. "But I could not just leave him there to die. He was hurt and alone." Blue walked over to Jake and sat beside him, a clear display of loyalty and affection. Lisa watched this interaction with growing amazement. "He is bonded to you," she said quietly. "I have never seen anything like it." "He is a good companion," Jake said. "He does not cause trouble. He just wants a home." Lisa was quiet for several minutes, studying Blue and Jake together. Finally, she sighed. "Jake, you have put me in an impossible position. Technically, I should report this immediately. Alien creatures require quarantine, medical examination, and approval from 3 different government agencies." Jake felt his heart sink. "How long would that take?" "Months, maybe years, and there is no guarantee Blue would be allowed to stay with you afterward. Most likely, he would be transferred to a research facility for study." The thought of Blue being locked in a laboratory made Jake feel sick. "There has to be another way." Lisa looked at Blue again. The creature seemed to sense the tension in the room. He moved closer to Jake and made that almost word sound again. "Did he just try to speak?" Lisa asked. "He makes sounds like that sometimes. I think he is trying to communicate, but obviously animals cannot actually talk." Lisa knelt down in front of Blue, who allowed her to approach. "You are a beautiful creature, aren't you?" "Where did you come from?" Blue tilted his head and made a series of sounds that were remarkably similar to speech patterns. Lisa looked amazed. "Jake, I think this creature is trying to tell us something." Before Jake could respond, Lisa's communication device beeped with an urgent message. She read it and her face went pale. What is it? Jake asked. Prince Zephyr of the Astrian Empire is coming to Luna Colony next week. A diplomatic goodwill visit. This complicates everything. Why does that matter? Lisa stood up and paced to the window. Because if there is an unregistered alien creature on the colony during a royal visit, it could cause a diplomatic incident. The Astrians are very particular about protocol. She turned back to Jake and Blue. I am going to give you 48 hours to figure this out. Either get proper documentation for Blue, find him a new home off colony, or I will have to report him to security. After Lisa left, Jake sat on his bed with Blue beside him. The creature seemed to understand that something was wrong. He pressed closer to Jake, offering what comfort he could. What are we going to do, boy? I cannot let them take you away, but I do not know how to make this legal. Blue looked up at Jake with those intelligent eyes and made the clearest sound yet. It was unmistakably an attempt at human speech, though Jake could not make out the words. I wish you could really talk, Jake said sadly. Maybe you could explain where you came from and why someone abandoned you. Blue stood up and walked to the window where Earth hung in the sky. He stared at the blue planet for a long time, then returned to Jake. This time when he made sounds, they were different. More urgent. More like he was trying very hard to say something specific. Jake had the strangest feeling that Blue was trying to warn him about something. But what could an alien animal know about human politics and diplomatic visits? That night, Jake lay awake thinking about his options. He could try to hide Blue during the prince's visit, but Lisa would be watching. He could attempt to leave Luna Colony, but he had no money and nowhere to go. He could surrender Blue to the authorities and hope for the best, but that felt like betrayal. As he wrestled with these thoughts, Blue moved from his corner to lie beside Jake's bed. In the darkness, the creature made soft sounds that were almost like whispered words. Jake found the sounds comforting, even though he could not understand them. What Jake did not know was that Blue understood every word that had been spoken that day. Blue knew exactly who Prince Zephyr was and why his visit to Luna Colony was so dangerous. Blue also knew that Jake was the first person to show him kindness in a very long time. Tomorrow, Blue would have to make a choice: stay silent and safe or risk. Jake woke up before dawn to find Blue sitting by the window staring at the stars. The creature had not moved from that position all night. Something was different about him. His posture was more alert, more purposeful than Jake had ever seen. Could not sleep either? Jake asked, sitting up in bed. Blue turned to look at Jake, and for a moment Jake could have sworn he saw something almost human in those golden eyes. Intelligence, yes, but also sadness and determination. Blue? Jake said carefully. The creature opened his mouth and spoke a single clear word. Stay. Jake felt like someone had hit him in the chest. He stared at Blue, waiting for his mind to process what he had just heard. An alien animal had spoken English. Not animal sounds that resembled speech, but an actual human word pronounced correctly. Did you say stay? Blue nodded. Actually nodded like a human being. Then he spoke again, his voice rough like someone learning to use vocal cords for the first time. Stay with Jake. Jake nearly fell off the bed. You can talk. You can actually talk. Yes, Blue said, the word coming easier now. Can talk. Always could. Was broken. You fixed. Jake's mind raced through everything that had happened over the past 2 weeks. Blue's unusual intelligence, his understanding of complex instructions, the way he seemed to comprehend every conversation. It all made sense now. How long have you been able to speak? Always, Blue said, moving closer to Jake. But voice was trapped. Could not make words come out right. You helped me heal. I don't understand. How did I help you heal? Blue was quiet for a moment, as if searching for the right words. My people, we bond with one person. When bond is made, we become complete. Can think clearly, speak properly. Without bond, we are limited. Jake felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together in his mind. Someone bonded with you before? Blue's ears drooped. Prince Zephyr was supposed to be my bonded partner. But he rejected me, said I was defective, had me thrown away. The ornate collar around Blue's neck suddenly made sense. You belong to the prince who is coming here? Not belonged, Blue said firmly. Partnership is choice, not ownership. Prince did not understand. Did not want real bond. Wanted pet that would not challenge him. Jake ran his hands through his hair, trying to process this information. What kind of creature are you really? My species is called WordHFY. We are truth speakers. We can sense when people lie, when they hide their real thoughts. Prince Zephyr did not like that I could see his true nature. What did you see? Blue moved to sit directly in front of Jake. Cruelty, pride, willingness to hurt others for his own benefit. He wanted me to stay silent about these things. When I could not, he decided I was broken. Jake felt anger building in his chest, so he threw you away like garbage. Yes. But garbage brought me to you. Blue tilted his head in that gesture Jake had grown to love. You have good heart, Jake Morrison. True heart. That is why bond formed between us. We are bonded now? Yes, from moment you chose to save me instead of report me. Bonds are made through choice and kindness, not ceremony. You chose me when no one else would. Jake looked at Blue with new understanding. That is why you always knew when I was in pain. Why you could comfort me during nightmares. Bond works both ways. I feel your emotions, you feel mine. Your healing helped me heal. My presence helps your sadness. They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes. Jake tried to absorb the reality that his companion was not just an intelligent animal, but a member of an advanced alien species, a species that had been treated badly by royalty. Blue, what is your real name? Kyle, Blue said. But Blue is good name too. You gave it to me when I needed new identity. I like both names, Kale, Jake repeated. What happens now? Prince Zephyr is coming here. If he sees you, he will demand my return. Will claim I was stolen, not abandoned. Will use his royal authority to take me back. I will not let that happen. Kale looked surprised. You would fight a prince for me? I would fight anyone for you. You are my friend, my family. No one throws away family. Kale made a sound that was almost like crying, though his alien physiology expressed emotion differently than humans. No one has ever called me family before. Jake reached out and scratched behind Kale's ears the way he had been doing for weeks. Well, you are, and families protect each other. Jake, there is more you need to know. HFY bonds are sacred in Astrian culture. Prince Zephyr's rejection of our bond was not just cruel. It was illegal under their own laws. If this becomes public knowledge, it could cause problems for him. Yes, big problems. Emperors take bond breaking very seriously. It reflects badly on royal character. Jake stood up and began pacing around the small apartment. His prosthetic leg clicked with each step, but for once the sound did not bother him. He was thinking like a soldier again, planning strategy. So we have two options. Hide and hope he does not recognize you or confront him publicly. Third option, Kale said quietly. I could leave. Find transport off Luna Colony. Protect you from diplomatic trouble. No. Jake's voice was firm. That is not an option. We stick together. Kale stood and walked to Jake, pressing his large head against Jake's chest in a gesture of affection and gratitude. You are very brave, Jake Morrison, but Prince Zephyr has power. He could hurt you? Let him try. I have been through worse. That afternoon, Jake made a decision that surprised even himself. Instead of hiding or running, he contacted Administrator Grant and requested a meeting with Prince Zephyr when he arrived. Jake, are you sure about this? Lisa asked when she arrived at his apartment. This could go very badly. It could, Jake agreed. But Kale deserves justice, and I think it is time someone stood up to bullies who throw away living creatures. Lisa looked at Kale, who had remained in his blue persona around her. Does he really understand everything we are saying? Tell her, Jake said to Kale. Kale looked at Jake, then at Lisa. After a moment of hesitation, he spoke. Hello, Administrator Grant. Thank you for giving Jake time to find solution. I know this situation is difficult for you. Lisa sat down heavily in Jake's only chair. Dear God, you really can talk. Yes, my name is Kale. I am WordHFY. Jake is my bonded partner. WordHFY, Lisa repeated. I have heard that name before. You are the truth speakers. Legend says your species can detect lies and deception. Not legend, truth. It is why Prince Zephyr rejected me. I made him uncomfortable by seeing his real nature. Lisa was quiet for a long time, thinking. Finally, she looked at Jake. If you are really going to do this, you will need allies. Prince Zephyr will not come alone. He will have guards, advisors, probably media representatives. What do you suggest? Official hearing? Public record? If Kale's story is true, if WordHFY bonds really are sacred, then Prince Zephyr broke serious laws. The Astrian Empire respects legal process when it is conducted properly. Jake looked at Kale. What do you think? Dangerous, but necessary. Other WordHFY are probably suffering similar treatment. If we speak truth publicly, maybe it helps them too. Then we do it, Jake said. We tell the truth and let the consequences come. Lisa stood up. I will arrange everything. But Jake, you need to understand what you are risking. If this goes wrong, you could face charges of theft, harboring an illegal alien, interfering with diplomatic relations. You could go to prison. And if we do nothing, Cale goes back to being treated like garbage. I will take my chances with the law. That evening, Jake and Cale sat together watching Earth through the window. Tomorrow would bring Prince Zephyr and a confrontation that could change both their lives. Are you scared? Jake asked. Yes, Cale admitted, but also hopeful. For first time in long time, someone believes my story. Someone is willing to fight for truth. We will get through this together. Together, Cale agreed. Neither of them knew that Prince Zephyr had already received word about the hearing, nor did they know that Captain Elena Rodriguez, the prince's security chief, was beginning to have serious doubts about her orders. She had spent her career serving the royal family with honor, but recent reports about the prince's behavior were disturbing. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reveal truths no one expected and shake the foundations of an empire built on tradition and honor. Prince Zephyr arrived on Luna Colony with all the ceremony his royal status demanded. His transport ship gleamed silver and gold, displaying the Astrian Empire's symbol prominently on its hull. A small fleet of security vessels accompanied him, their presence a reminder of his importance. Jake watched the arrival ceremony from his apartment window, Cale beside him. The prince looked exactly like the images Jake had seen on news broadcasts. Tall, handsome, with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. He wore elaborate robes that sparkled with embedded jewels, and moved with the fluid grace of someone who had never doubted his place in the universe. He looks different than I remember, Kyle said quietly. Older, more arrogant. How long were you with him? 6 months. From puppy age until he decided I was defective. He never once tried to understand our bond. Just expected me to follow orders like a trained animal. Captain Elena Rodriguez walked beside the prince, her military bearing evident even from a distance. She was older than Jake had expected, with graying hair and sharp eyes that constantly scanned for threats. Her uniform was practical rather than ornate, marking her as a professional soldier rather than royal decoration. She looks like someone who takes her job seriously, Jake observed. Captain Rodriguez was always kind to me, Kyle said. She questioned Prince's treatment sometimes, but could not disobey direct orders. I think she suspected something was wrong. The formal hearing was scheduled for that afternoon in the colony's main conference room. Administrator Grant had insisted on proper procedures, which meant official recording, legal representatives, and a panel of neutral observers. Prince Zephyr had agreed, probably thinking it would be a simple matter of reclaiming stolen property. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Jake put on his best clothes, though they were nothing compared to royal finery. His prosthetic leg had been giving him trouble all morning, but he was determined not to show weakness. Cale needed him to be strong. Ready? He asked Cale as they prepared to leave. Ready, Cale replied, though his ears were pressed back against his head in a sign of nervousness. The conference room was packed when they arrived. Prince Zephyr sat at a long table with Captain Rodriguez and 2 legal advisors. The prince's expression showed mild annoyance, as if this entire proceeding was beneath his dignity. When he saw Cale, his eyes widened in surprise. That is definitely my ceremonial companion, he said to his advisors. I told you it had been stolen, Administrator. Grant called the hearing to order and explained the purpose to determine the legal status of the WordHFY known as Cale and establish the facts surrounding his presence on Luna Colony. Prince Zephyr spoke first, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. The creature you see before you is royal property of the Astrian Empire. It was assigned to me for ceremonial purposes and disappeared during transport to an outer rim facility. This human has illegally harbored stolen property and must return it. Immediately, Jake noticed that the prince never used Cale's name or referred to him as anything other than it or the creature. The dehumanization was deliberate and telling. Your Highness, Administrator Grant said carefully, can you provide documentation of this creature's legal status as property? Prince Zephyr looked annoyed. WordHFY bonds are matters of royal tradition, not common law, I should not need documentation to reclaim what belongs to me. Actually, one of the legal observers interjected, HFY bonds are specifically protected under Astrian imperial law. Section 447. They are considered sacred partnerships, not property relationships. The prince's face reddened slightly. This particular creature was defective. The bond never formed properly. It was being transferred for medical evaluation when it was lost. Lost? Jake stood up, his prosthetic leg clicking as he moved. You mean abandoned? Thrown away like garbage in a dump. I will not be addressed by a common laborer, Prince Zephyr snapped. Guards, remove this man. Captain Rodriguez remained motionless. Your Highness, this is a legal proceeding. The man has the right to speak. Prince Zephyr shot her a sharp look but said nothing more. Administrator Grant nodded to Jake. Please tell us your version of events. Jake kept his voice steady and factual. 2 weeks ago, I found Kale unconscious in our waste disposal facility. He had been dumped there like garbage. He was malnourished and appeared to have been neglected for some time. I brought him home and cared for his injuries. And you claim this creature can speak? One of the advisors asked skeptically. I do not claim it. He can demonstrate it himself. All eyes turned to Kale, who had remained silent in his position beside Jake's chair. The room was completely quiet as the HFY stood and looked directly at Prince Zephyr. When Kale spoke, his voice carried clearly through the room. My name is Kale. I am HFY of the Truthseer clan. Prince Zephyr was assigned as my bonded partner according to royal tradition. He rejected this bond and ordered me disposed of because I could see his true nature. The silence that followed was deafening. Several people in the room had never heard a HFY speak before. Even those familiar with the species looked amazed at Kale's clear, intelligent speech. Prince Zephyr recovered first. Lies. The creature was trained to repeat phrases. HFY cannot actually speak intelligently. Cannot speak, Kale repeated. Or you did not want to hear what I had to say? Your Highness, Captain Rodriguez said quietly. HFY speech is well documented in Imperial archives. They are renowned throughout the galaxy for their intelligence and honesty. Prince Zephyr glared at his security chief. Captain, you forget your place. No, Your Highness. I remember it very well. My oath is to serve the Empire and protect the truth. Both require me to listen to this testimony. Administrator Grant leaned forward. Kyle, can you explain what you mean by seeing the prince's true nature? Kale looked sad but determined. HFY can sense emotions and intentions. We feel when people lie, when they hide cruel thoughts, when they care only for themselves. Prince Zephyr did not like that I could see past his public image. What did you see? One of the observers asked. Cruelty to servants. Enjoyment of others' pain. Plans to use royal power for personal gain rather than service to the Empire. He wanted a companion who would stay silent about these things. When I could not, he decided I was broken. Prince Zephyr stood up angrily. These are lies. Slander against the royal family. HFY cannot lie, Captain Rodriguez said quietly. It is biologically impossible for them. Their neural structure prevents deception. Everyone turned to look at her. Prince Zephyr's face went pale. Captain Rodriguez, he said in a warning tone, I apologize, Your Highness, but it is true. HFY are incapable of lying. It is why they serve as truth speakers in our legal system. This testimony must be considered accurate. The room erupted in whispered conversations. Prince Zephyr looked around desperately, realizing that his authority was slipping away. Even if the creature speaks truth about my personal conduct, he said, it remains royal property. It must be returned to the Empire. Actually, Administrator Grant said, consulting her notes, according to Astrian law, HFY bonds can only be dissolved by mutual consent or death. If Kale is telling the truth about your rejection, then you violated Imperial law by abandoning him. This is ridiculous. I am a prince of the Astrian Empire. I will not be lectured about law by colonial administrators. Prince Zephyr's outburst revealed more about his character than any testimony could. The arrogance and contempt were clear for everyone to see. Kale spoke again, his voice calm despite the tension in the room. Prince Zephyr, you said I was defective. You told your father, the Emperor, that I was disposed of because I could not bond properly. Will you repeat that statement now in front of witnesses? Prince Zephyr realized the trap too late. If he admitted to abandoning Kale, he confessed to breaking Imperial law. If he denied it, he admitted to lying to his father about Kale's fate. The creature was clearly damaged. It could not perform its duties. What duties? Kyle asked. To stay silent while you planned to betray your empire's values? To pretend I could not see your true intentions? Enough, Prince Zephyr shouted. I do not want the defective creature anyway. I demand compensation for my loss and immediate transport off this primitive colony. His words hung in the air like a confession. By calling Kale defective and demanding compensation, he had admitted to treating a sacred bond as a business transaction. Captain Rodriguez stood up slowly. Your Highness, I formally request permission to contact Emperor Valix directly. This testimony needs to reach the highest levels of imperial authority. You will do no such thing. I am sorry, Your Highness, but my oath to the Empire requires it. This matter involves violation of sacred laws and reflects on royal character. The Emperor must be informed. Prince Zephyr looked around the room and saw only disapproving faces. His royal authority meant nothing here. Truth had more power than titles. This hearing is a farce, he declared. I will report this insult to my father personally. Please do, Administrator Grant said calmly. We will provide complete recordings of these proceedings to imperial authorities. As Prince Zephyr stormed out of the room with his advisors, Captain Rodriguez approached Jake and Kyle. 3 days after the hearing, Emperor Valix himself contacted Luna Colony. Jake had never expected to speak directly with the ruler of the Astrian Empire. But there he was on the communication screen, an elderly man with kind eyes and the bearing of someone who had earned respect rather than inherited it. Jake Morrison, the Emperor said, his voice carrying across the vast distance between worlds. I have reviewed the complete recording of your hearing. I would like to hear Kale's testimony directly if he is willing to provide it. Jake looked at Kale, who nodded and moved to where the camera could see him clearly. Emperor Valix, Kale said formally, I greet you with respect and offer truth in all my words. And I receive your greeting with honor. Truth-seer Kyle, tell me what happened between you and my son. Kyle's account was detailed and painful to hear. He described months of emotional neglect, of being treated as a decoration rather than a partner, of having his attempts at communication ignored or dismissed. He spoke of sensing Prince Zephyr's growing resentment toward anyone who might challenge his selfish desires. The final incident occurred when Prince Zephyr planned to sell Imperial military supplies for personal profit, Kale said. When I tried to warn him that such actions violated his oath to the Empire, he decided I was too much trouble to keep. Emperor Valix listened without interruption, his expression growing more grave with each revelation. When Kyle finished, the Emperor was quiet for a long time. Kyle, in your judgment as a WordHFY truthseer, is my son fit to rule? The question hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. Jake could feel Kale's internal struggle through their bond. This was not just about personal justice anymore. This was about the future of an empire. Emperor Valix, Kale said carefully, your son has intelligence and charisma, but he lacks wisdom, compassion, and respect for the responsibilities of leadership. He sees power as a tool for personal benefit rather than service to others. I cannot recommend him as a future ruler. The Emperor nodded slowly. I feared as much. Recent reports from other sources have raised similar concerns. Your testimony confirms what I hoped was not true. Your Majesty, Jake interjected, what will happen to Prince Zephyr? He will be stripped of his status as heir and exiled from the royal court. The succession will pass to his younger sister, who has shown much better character. As for the prince himself, he will live as a common citizen and perhaps learn humility through experience. Jake felt a mix of satisfaction and sympathy. Justice was being served, but it was still a family being torn apart. There is more to discuss, the Emperor continued. Jake Morrison, you have done the Empire a great service by providing sanctuary for Kale and giving him the opportunity to speak truth. How can we repay this debt? Jake looked around his small apartment, then at Kale beside him. I do not need repayment, Your Majesty. Kyle gave me more than I gave him. He gave me purpose again. Nevertheless, I would like to offer you a position as official liaison between Earth and the Astrian Empire. Your colony would become our first embassy, and you would help prevent future misunderstandings between our peoples. The offer was tempting, but Jake had conditions. Only if I can focus on helping others like Kale. There are probably more WordHFY who have been mistreated or abandoned. And there are humans like me who have been thrown away by society. I want to build bridges for the forgotten. Emperor Valak smiled for the first time during their conversation, spoken like a true leader. I accept your conditions. Captain Rodriguez has requested transfer to serve as your security chief. She feels responsible for not acting sooner to protect Kyle. I would be honored to work with Captain Rodriguez. Then it is settled. Luna Colony becomes our embassy, with you as ambassador and Kale as your advisor. Captain Rodriguez will command your security detail. After the call ended, Jake sat in stunned silence. In the space of 3 weeks, he had gone from broken veteran to galactic diplomat. The transformation felt surreal. Are you okay with this? He asked Kale. You will be in the public eye representing your people. I am ready, Kale replied. For too long, WordHFY have suffered in silence when bonds are broken or rejected. If our story can help others, then it serves a good purpose. Captain Rodriguez arrived the next day with a small team of Astrian guards who would help establish the embassy. She had traded her elaborate military uniform for practical work clothes, and she seemed relieved to be away from royal politics. I served the royal family for 20 years, she told Jake as they toured the facilities being prepared for the embassy. I believed in duty and honor. Watching Prince Zephyr treat Kale like garbage made me question everything I thought I knew about nobility. True nobility comes from character, not bloodline, Jake said. You proved that by standing up for truth when it mattered. The embassy opened 6 months later with a simple ceremony attended by representatives from a dozen worlds. Jake gave a short speech about building bridges and healing old wounds. Kale stood beside him, proud and confident. No longer the broken creature found in a garbage dump. Their first major success came when they reunited a young WordHFY named Whisper with Alex Turner, a former combat pilot who had lost both arms in battle. Alex had been struggling with depression and isolation until Whisper chose him as a partner. The bond healed both of them, giving Alex purpose and Whisper the communication abilities he needed. It works because they understand each other, Kale explained to Jake as they watched Alex and Whisper work together in the embassy garden. Both were discarded by those who should have cared for them. Both found strength in being chosen by someone who saw their true value. The embassy's mission expanded beyond WordHFY rescue. They established support programs for disabled veterans, created job training for former soldiers, and built partnerships between human and alien communities. Jake's apartment became the model for integration housing where different species could live and learn together. 1 year after their first meeting, Jake and Kale stood on the observation deck watching Earth rise over Luna's horizon. Jake's prosthetic leg still clicked when he walked, but the sound no longer bothered him. It was just part of who he was now, like his bond with Kale. Do you ever regret choosing me instead of staying with royalty? Jake asked. Kale tilted his head in that familiar gesture. Royalty is about titles and ceremony. You gave me something more valuable. You gave me home. You gave me the same thing. We saved each other, Kale said simply. Below them, Luna Colony bustled with activity. The industrial dome where Jake had once collected garbage now housed the fastest-growing embassy in galactic history. Former soldiers worked alongside alien refugees, building something new and better than what they had lost. A communication alert interrupted their quiet moment. Jake activated the screen to see a young woman in Astrian military uniform. Ambassador Morrison? I am Lieutenant Sarah Martinez. I am calling on behalf of a WordHFY named Storm who was abandoned on Mars Colony. He specifically requested to speak with you and Kale. Jake and Kale exchanged a look. Another rescue mission. Another chance to heal broken bonds and forgotten dreams. Put him through, Jake said. The screen changed to show a WordHFY with dark fur and tired eyes. When he saw Kale, his ears perked up hopefully. Truthseer Kale, I heard your story across the communication networks. I have been alone for 2 years since my partner decided I was too much trouble. Can you help me find someone who will not give up on me? Kale moved closer to the screen. What is your name, brother? Storm. I used to work with search and rescue teams until my partner said I was too emotional about saving lives. He wanted someone who would not question orders to abandon people in danger. Jake felt the familiar fire of righteous anger. Another good being thrown away by someone who did not deserve their loyalty. Storm, Jake said, how would you feel about working with former human soldiers who understand what it means to be abandoned? We have a rescue program here that could use someone with your experience. Storm's eyes brightened for the first time in their conversation. You would want someone like me? We specialize in someone like you, Kale said warmly. broken things that turn out to be exactly what the world needs. As they began making arrangements to bring Storm to Luna Colony, Jake reflected on how much his life had changed. A year ago, he had been a broken soldier drinking alone in a small apartment. Now he was helping heal a galaxy, one abandoned soul at a time. The work was hard. Politics was complicated. Some days the bureaucracy made him want to scream. But every successful rescue, every new bond formed, every forgotten being given a second chance made it all worthwhile. Outside the window, Earth continued its eternal dance around the sun, blue and beautiful and home. But home was not a place anymore. Home was the bond between two unlikely friends who had saved each other from the garbage heap of history and built something better from the pieces. Jake Morrison and Cale the Truseer had become exactly what the galaxy needed. Proof that sometimes the broken things are the ones with the most to give.